Over the course of this past weekend, I've been doing a bit of thinking about why pro wrestling cannot draw a younger audience in 2020, because as we know, pro wrestling nowadays, the vast majority of the pro wrestling audience is 34 plus, if not 50 plus, based on NXT's numbers. So the vast majority of pro wrestling's audience is older viewers who've been watching for pretty much their whole lives, viewers who watch out of habit, and pro wrestling can't really draw in new young viewers. Now, obviously, one of the main reasons for this is Vince McMahon, and one, how out of touch he is, but two, he can't make, or he refuses to make new superstars, superhero type wrestlers who you're captivated and drawn to, and wrestlers who really market to a youthful audience. And also because the nature of pro wrestling, guys in their underwear rolling around, it's not exactly conducive to a youthful audience nowadays. But excluding that, I was doing some thinking after watching a Technical Work Rate Productions video about NXT, where they made a point about long matches. Now, long matches are something which Triple H is at the forefront of. Triple H and the NXT model just prides itself on long matches. If you don't believe me, watch any episode of NXT. Wrestling and the matches is the main point of NXT. And it got me thinking as to, okay, NXT's viewership, NXT's audience, as we've seen since they've gone to USA, we've seen it in the ratings numbers, NXT's audience is around about half 50 plus. Alright, half the people who watch NXT, on average, are 50 plus year olds. And I'd say the vast majority are 34 plus. So that is NXT's audience. That is the audience who's watching these long matches, this wrestling-based product. And it got me thinking as to, well, I can pretty much deduce based off that, matches and that kind of stuff, the youth doesn't care. And this got me thinking as to when pro wrestling was successful back in the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era, or era, however you say it, when pro wrestling was successful in those time periods, what made it so successful? Well, one, as mentioned, we had big, important superhero-like characters. We had, Austin, Rock, all those guys, Batista. I don't need to go into that, but we had these big, superstars. And how the show was structured was, for one, 2-hour Raw shows, 2-hour SmackDown shows. The focus was upon the characters, the backstage segments. Matches would be short because it's just trying to fill in time before the main event and do things in a way in which you as the viewer are more interested in seeing what's happening in the main event as opposed to seeing a random 15-minute match just to kill time. Because the fact of the matter is, I'd like to think of myself as someone who almost represents a lot of the youth for pro wrestling audience. Like, I'm not some 44-year-old man, okay? I know some of you probably think I am, but no. I'm not some old man. I'm someone who watches pro wrestling in the eyes of like a youth, and I see pro wrestling and the matches as boring. I don't find watching 22-minute matches with 117 near falls and work rate throughout entertaining. And that's not to say that if you love long matches and you love the in-ring wrestling side of it that you're wrong for that. Like, God, no. Like, once again, if you know me, I'm totally down with everyone's perspective. I listen to all perspectives and whatnot. I'm not hating on you if you enjoy long matches and you enjoy work rate, but I'm saying that based on pro wrestling's audience, based on the numbers and the size of pro wrestling's audience that are 34 plus, 50 plus, people who've been watching for life out of habit, people who have immense patience, people who will happily dedicate 2 hours of their life and watch NXT with all their great matches no matter what's happening. Okay, those people, that is pro wrestling's audience. Pro wrestling and the match-based format that is so clear nowadays, because one of the main reasons pro wrestling has turned to this match-based format, for one, it's lazy writing. It really is lazy writing. You have to kill 3 hours of TV instead of writing, Monday Night Raw this is, you have to kill 3 hours of TV every week, 2 hours of SmackDown, 2 hours of NXT, instead of writing creative, like, night-long storylines, like having, I don't know, Stone Cold Steve Austin throwing belts off a bridge and the corporation responds and the corporation attacks this person and doing these big night-long storylines. Instead, WWE just opts to do, 12-minute match here, 20-minute Raw main event, 15-minute match. The reviewers and the work rate lovers will love this. They'll give it a good rating. We'll get some good buzz going just for having a good match. But in reality, new viewers tuning in are going to see a 25-minute match and get bored. That's the truth of pro wrestling nowadays. As great as these talents are as in-ring workers, which I hate that term, but as workers and as crisp as you want to say they are, the vast majority of the mainstream doesn't care to watch it. People's attention spans these days are short. People want to see stuff happening. If you're just watching a match for the sake of a match, what's the reason to care? Why should I or you as a viewer who isn't super patient, hasn't been watching WWE their whole life, hasn't been watching pro wrestling their whole life, isn't super conducive and super, acclimatized to watching long matches, why should we just sit there for 27 minutes? And again, this could be an unpopular opinion, but when I was doing some thinking about it, I was thinking, why is NXT failing? And it became obvious because the 2-hour move to USA, especially with the pandemic and the fact that there's no crowd, it makes watching 22-minute matches between guys who don't need to go 22 minutes, it made that just seem redundant. Why do we need to see a 60-minute Fatal 4-Way Iron Man match just for the sake of it? Why? Can you not have either a regular Fatal 4-Way match, one fall to a finish, that goes at most 22 minutes? Do we need to see a 60-minute match just to have a 60-minute match? Like, Triple H and the NXT format, it worked in Full Sail University at the 1-hour format. It really did, because you could have a minute and a half squash match here, a minute and a half squash match there, vignettes, video packages, like a couple of them for different wrestlers, some interviews, a main event that was like 10 to 12 minutes that people cared about. Every once in a while there'd be an NXT TV episode with like a 20-minute main event, and that'd be like a rare one-off. They have like a title match, it would feel like a big deal. Now, I look at NXT, you've got this past week's episode, Io Shirai, Shotzi Blackheart, they're going 15 minutes in the opener of NXT for literally no reason. That should be saved for a takeover, but instead, you've got to kill 2 hours, you've got to have a great match, you've got to have a long match, so they're trying to kill TV time, that goes 15 minutes for no reason. You've got Breezango versus Imperium, that match is going literally 20 minutes. Why? Who's asking for a 20-minute match between these teams? Why should a casual viewer turn on the TV and see Johnny Curtis gyrating his hips, Tyler Breeze taking selfies, Eichner and Bartel having no character? Why should we turn on the TV as new viewers, as mainstream viewers, as viewers who haven't been watching wrestling for their whole life, turn on and see that for 20 minutes, them just doing a regular headlock on the mat for 6 minutes? Why is anyone going to be inclined to watch that? How's that going to make someone go, oh damn, I've been watching WWE lately, or pro wrestling, I've got to watch more of this. I've got to watch more 22-minute matches, which could easily be 6 minutes. Like, this is the problem with the length of the shows nowadays in pro wrestling. It makes these writers lazy. It makes Triple H, it makes Vince McMahon, it makes Kevin Dunn, it makes Shane McMahon, not even Shane so much, but yeah, Shawn Michaels, Road Dogg, Jeremy Borash, all these people who write NXT especially, and nowadays the main roster as well, because all these, most of these wrestlers can do is wrestle nowadays. There's not really the characters as much anymore, so you get these long matches after long matches after long matches. Long matches and work rate loses its appeal, because back in the day, when there would be a 25-minute match, you'd think, oh hell, this is the two top guys in the company going at it, it's going to go 25 minutes. Now, everyone and their dog can go 25 minutes in a match. Everyone has the work rate, the cardio, the conditioning, the in-ring stamina and psychology to wrestle that 27-minute match. But as viewers, why should we care? Well, going back to the Attitude Era thing, this is why those shows were so successful. What they do, you'd have a big opening segment featuring all the main eventers that would captivate you for the rest of the night. Then, what Vince McMahon, what all the writers back then, Russo, what they do with the writing of their shows, you'd have little matches throughout the night. Yes, the matches weren't great quality, but great quality long matches don't draw on the mainstream. Vince Russo, Vince McMahon, they knew that in the Attitude Era. So what you'd get is the Stone Cold Corporation opening segment, a 10-minute, 15-minute segment that everyone's captivated by, that all the mainstream viewers are tuning in to see. You'd have that. Then you transition into, I don't know, Test versus Gangrel. They'd have a 2-minute match because no one cares to see those guys wrestle for 9 minutes for the sake of it. So you have a 2-minute Test versus Gangrel match. Something would happen. We'd see Stone Cold backstage. We'd have a big interview, we'd have a big angle, then we'd go to commercial. After the break, there'd be another 3-minute match. This time it would be D'Lo Brown versus Maven. Like, you get my point? That's how they structure the shows. They structure the shows where long matches are non-existent outside of the very pay-per-view main events. But nowadays, pro wrestling doesn't draw to the younger audiences because we don't have that. Nowadays, we have a pro wrestling where you tune into NXT and you're seeing a 14-minute match between Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong against Drake Maverick and Killian Dane. And you're thinking, why is this going 17 minutes? Does this need to go 17 minutes? Just because you want to please these reviewers and these smarks who love seeing these matches that they can put in their top 25 matches of NXT September 2020 lists, just because you want to please those people, doesn't mean that's good for your product. If anything, it's quite detrimental to your product. If you want to make a product that people care about, why don't you do matches that actually go for a length of time that makes sense? Instead of having Keith Lee versus Dolph Ziggler go for 14 minutes, why don't have Keith Lee squash Dolph Ziggler? Oh, actually, I know why you have Keith Lee versus Dolph Ziggler go for 14 minutes, because your show's 3 hours long and you need to kill time. Okay, why don't you cut back to 2-hour Raws and focus on storytelling, characters, building up superstars? That would make your show and your product so much easier to watch. It really would. But instead, what are we going to get? We're going to get more 22-minute matches because near falls and work rate is how you kill time, it's how you please smarks, and it's how you drive away the mainstream audience. So, yeah, that's been a little, I guess you'd say, mini rant about the mindset of pro wrestling booking nowadays, the whole focus on 17-minute matches. Like, yes, great matches that go for 15 to 20 minutes are all well and good, but if they're not telling a story that we care about and if they're not actually important, like if you're just having a 15-minute tag title match for the sake of having a 15-minute tag title match, we're just going to turn off. I don't care to see Breezango versus Imperium for 17 minutes. Why should I be going 17 minutes? Do we care enough about anyone involved for it to go 17 minutes? No. So why is it? Now, that's the video. I'm going to leave it there. I think you guys get my point. Wrestling, and when it's popular, has never been about wrestling. It's been about pretty much everything else. And once again, wrestling has its place, but it shouldn't be the end-all be-all, and matches shouldn't be the thing that dictates the shows. Because when it is, and when they do shows that way, we have ratings like NXT get, where it's over 50s is half the audience, because those are the only people who have the patience or the desire to watch those matches. So that's been the video. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you have, be sure to like, comment, sub. You guys know the drill. See ya.